Hi, good morning. Thank you all for being here. So we'll do a couple of things today. First of all, you all have a copy in your TD Bank brochure of the new version of U.S. trade numbers. So if you open up, you'll have your copy there. It's a publication we've been doing for about a decade now. We started by doing one called Miami trade numbers in 2000. Can you hear me in the back fine, by the way? Can you hear me in the back fine? Yeah, okay. So we started doing one called Miami trade numbers in 2001. We've been doing that every year since. We've done Los Angeles now for about more than 10 years. We just launched LA trade numbers in Los Angeles, and we did that with the chamber there, and we had about 600 to 800 people there. We launched ours in Miami. We had 350 people. We do them in places like Laredo, Texas. We do them for things like perishables, things that perish. We've done them before for countries, so we've done one for China. We've done one for South Korea. So we can do very many different types of these publications. I'm going to walk you through the publication a little bit, but I'll just make a few points because we got a lot to cover today. We've got a great program with two really fantastic speakers. We'll be talking about the economy, we'll be talking about trade policy and so forth, so I think you'll find it very enjoyable. And to make the event particularly successful, what I'm hoping you'll do is ask questions. So there you go, 2015 highlights, 10 things to know. U.S. trade fell from 3.97 trillion to 3.75 trillion. What's interesting about that, that's only the third time trade has fallen in more than 2 decades, and it's the first time trade has ever fallen without a significant shock to the global economy. The last 2 times were the 2001 when the terror strikes occurred, and then 2008, 2009 when the mortgage crisis occurred. For the first time, China replaced Canada as the top U.S. trade partner. First time ever. And we'll talk about why that is. That'll appear in a minute, but it's not because of China. For the first time since 2003, motor vehicle imports were the nation's leading import, replacing oil. Those 2 things are related, numbers 2 and 3. The value of oil imports into the United States fell 48.95%. That fall alone is $120 billion. Just the fall alone is greater than the value of the number 3 import in the United States, cell phones. Houston in 2008 had one of the nation's largest trade deficits. It now has the nation's largest trade surplus. Again, I think you can see a theme. It's all about oil, right? A quick sort of a bigger view. Trade with 7 top 20 nations set records. And you probably can't read this in the back, so I'll try to read some of this for you. And we'll make it available to you as well if you'd like. But China, Germany, South Korea, United Kingdom, Ireland, Italy, and Vietnam all set records in 2015. 4 top 20 exports set records: aircraft, motor vehicle parts, cell phones, and the category that includes plasma and vaccines. 12 of the top 20 imports set records: motor vehicles, cell phones, motor vehicle parts, medicines, a category called returned exports, which we may hear a little bit about from UPS, maybe, I don't know. They are big in that space. Commercial vehicles, seats, aircraft engines, furniture, medical instruments, and then insulated cable and wire. The U.S. trade deficit increased to $737 billion, and that's the highest since the 2008 record of $816 billion. We can talk about that more as well, because that's one thing you'll probably hear a lot about during the upcoming presidential campaign, and we can talk about what the trade deficit really means. The U.S. balance of trade, and what that is, I think I sort of created this statistic, so I'm not sure how much, but I take a look at what is the percentage that exports account for in total trade. It's very related to the surplus and deficit, but not exactly the same. And it's gone from 41 cents on the dollar to 40 cents. So it's about the same. So over the last decade or so, it's been relatively stable, even as the the deficit has increased. So let's look at the top performing trade partners. So here's what I did. I went and I looked at all the countries we trade with, and there's roughly 225 countries. And I said, which countries have been in the top 10 for growth for the last 5 years, the last 10 years, and the last 20 years? Which have been in all 3 of those categories? So consistent long-term growth. And now's the part where we're going to see if you're awake. Whose flag is that? China. So China's in there. China is one of the 8 nations. How about that one? Mexico, you're doing well. Canada. How about that one? Let's see. That's Germany. How about that one? South Korea. Vietnam.
India.
India. So those are the 8. Now how about that one? There you go. Those are the 8. I guess there's 9. Sorry. Oh, it is 8. Yeah, they're different size. That is 8. Okay, there we go. So now we'll do it a different way. We'll look at the growth rate. And this one will be a little more interesting, because those you sort of expect. Those are the big players, right? Let's look at the growth rate. Vietnam, remember from last time. So that's the fastest growth over the 5, 10, and 20-year period. How about that one?
The UAE. Nope.
Any ideas?
Emirates.
Somebody said it. Oops. That's the United Arab Emirates. Okay, how about the third one?
Hungary?
Getting a little tougher. Somebody's getting. I think somebody said it. That was Hungary. You were close. Somebody said Poland. I think we were close. You're in the right. How about the fourth one there?
Poland.
That's Poland. How about the fifth one? We got that before. That's India. Okay, so those are the 5. If you look at it based on the growth rate that have done the best over the 20, 10, and 5-year period. So there you start getting some surprises. So these are the top performing exports over that same period, 5, 10, and 20-year period. So number 1 is aircraft. That's largely going to be a Boeing story. Number 2 is gasoline exports. Number 3 is motor vehicle exports, and I intentionally chose a foreign car there because a lot of the exports from this country are foreign manufacturers that have located in the southern United States, although there's a lot from Detroit as well. Number 4 is cell phones. We don't manufacture cell phones in the United States, but we do export a lot of them. They come in, they have SIM cards added, they have value added, and they're re-exported. And the 5th one is, and there's 6 by the way, the 5th one is motor vehicle parts. And the 6th one is plasma, vaccines, and blood, and I thought it was a little early to be putting an image of that on the screen, so I left that off for now. Now, if we look at percentages of growth, there's 2 in the top 50 exports that have appeared both in the 20-year, 10-year, and 5-year period. One is oil, okay? Export of oil, because we've now, some of you in the room are old enough to remember the oil embargo. Well, we've now allowed the U.S. to start exporting oil again, and it's growing very, very fast. The second one is electrical boards, switches, and panels, and I just couldn't find a good image for that one, so there's no image for that one. Top performing imports: cars, cell phones, motor vehicle parts, medicine, a very fast-growing import, and the 5th one is computers. And 3 of those in the top 50 when you look at the rate of growth. And one is the plasma, blood, and vaccine, and the other is aircraft parts, and then the 3rd one is electrical board, switches, and panels. So that's it. So that's a very quick rundown of trade. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. If you don't have questions yet, I'll ask our panelists to come to the front, and we'll continue with that part of the presentation. Anybody have any questions for me about the trade data or how this publication is organized? Yes. Let me tell you real quickly one thing about how the publication is organized. The first section is on the leading airports and seaports. The second section is on the top countries. The 3rd section is the exports, and the 4th section is the imports. And you'll sort of figure that out quickly. But there's a U.S. map and a world map in there with a lot of detail. Yes, ma'am.
A curiosity, because back when I was doing doctoral dissertations and things like that, we would rotate. One year the top export would be aircraft, and the next year it would be wheat or corn. I see nothing agriculture in your top products. Is there a good reason for that?
There is a good reason for that. So this publication, the way we do this publication, we'll look at our website here in a second. Oh, let me run through our website before we start the panel, because that's sort of to that question. But the way we do this publication is on value. So when you do value as opposed to tonnage, you're going to skew to things that tend to be a little bit lighter and a little bit more valuable. So if you, this also makes it interesting for airports and seaports. If you just look at tonnage, all your top trade is going to be through seaports because planes don't carry things that are heavy. So when you do airports and seaports and border crossings, you have to go to the value. So for that reason, in this publication, by the way, all these publications can be downloaded at no cost on our website at ustradenumbers.com. So this publication, Perishables Trade Numbers, will have wheat in there. because as a perishable, it's still one of the more valuable ones. But let's go to our website. So at ustradenumbers.com, and the domain is right on the front there if you forget it. But ustradenumbers.com, we upload 6,700 pages of data every month. So there's a page for every airport, every seaport, every border crossing in the country. There's a page for every country that we trade with. There's a page for more than 900 specific exports, 900 specific imports, and so forth. So this is the home page. And if you click on the second tab, I'll show you there's a country page. If you see up in the upper right-hand corner, it lists all the countries. So here's what's interesting. I told you China had become the top U.S. trade partner for the first time. That was literally because of the price of oil and the value of oil. Canada is the largest supplier of U.S. oil. In 2015, for the first time, one country accounted for more than 20% of all the imported oil into the country, and this was Canada. We tend to think of the Middle East when we think of oil, but we get the largest percentage of our oil from Canada. We get a lot from Mexico. Historically, we've gotten a lot from Venezuela. That's another story. So the Middle East is important, obviously, but we get a lot of oil from Canada. So Canada is back on top. And what's even more interesting, the Chinese economy. We'll talk about that more in the panel. The Chinese economy is such that China has now fallen to number 3 for the first time in many years. It's been number 3 behind Mexico.